we are in Milan, and look who's here. It's Chris Dockrell. How are you doing?
Great, Ray.
Welcome.
It's wonderful to be here.
Welcome to Milan, eh?
Yeah, beautiful place.
Yeah. So you travelled here from Australia?
Yes, in fact, I only flew in today.
Wow.
26 hours of travel, so
That's
a little bit jet lagged.
That's dedication.
Yeah.
That's dedication.
Yeah.
It's, as you can see, we spiffed up for you.
I am so
Spiffed
impressed,
up for
actually.
you.
I mean,
Yeah.
you didn't really have to go to all that trouble, but I am.
Well, you are
really
virtually Australian royalty now.
Well,
I mean, you had the ambassador out, and it's only a matter before Prince Charles comes knocking. So it's just we just thought we'd roll out the red
Well,
carpet
thank
for
you so much. Yeah, yeah.
But no, welcome. And so, the island of Dr. Moron.
Yep. It's interesting. That's how he likes to pronounce it.
Is it?
Moron.
Moron.
Everyone.
He's a posh man.
Everyone else calls him Moron.
As you can see, he spiffs up as well.
He does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a shy man.
Yeah.
Definitely a shy man.
And being in the middle of all these great posters, it is all about him.
Yeah.
I mean, he extends the parameters of narcissism
Absolutely.
to
Absolutely.
unheard of limits. Yeah.
Absolutely. Is he based on a relative?
Oh, well, if he is, I can't really own up to that.
That's one way to get rid of the competition. Eat them.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
But no, it's such an unusual show. I mean, I've seen it. I've watched it on film, and I can only imagine experiencing it live. Where did you get the idea from? I mean, everybody knows that that these type of films were classic models for like the Hammer House and all that sort of thing. But you've taken that idea forward in another direction, right? You obviously, it's your concept, your baby. You've evolved it from a show perspective. It must be one hell of a spectacle to experience.
It certainly is. Just going back, where did I get the idea? Well, I did get the idea from the island of Dr. Moreau, H.G. Wells' famous classic, but it was only the idea for this show. It was sort of off at a tangent, and it was the last night of another rock musical that I'd written. I've written 5 so far, and this one was called Chill, and it was about an intergalactic property developer who'd come down to Earth and had done a deal and bought all of Earth. You know? And it was it is a spectacular musical in itself, but we'll do that one day professionally. But I was standing in the lighting bay on the last night, and this show was just going off, and I thought, where do I go from here? Yeah. And it was like a flash, and I thought, these genetically mutated beings dancing on stage. Sure. And that was it. Sure. That's where the stories of Dr. Moreau and Dr. Moron part. But there is a song in the second act of the show called Genetic Mutation.
Okay.
And if you see that song, that's the vision that I had for this rock musical. And then the world of Dr. Moron grew out of that. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So, why are they genetically mutated? Where are they?
Sure.
How did they get there? Who made them so? And then the island became peopled with, crazy characters. I mean,
crazy experiments.
Yeah. Well, we've got Moron on one side of the island over at Devil Cove, but then deep in the jungle you've got Voodoo Valma,
right?
And who heads up a band of Rastafarian voodoo natives.
Right.
And so, there's nothing like that in Wells' novel.
No, absolutely not. And I mean, look. Just as a point of reference, the black and white classics, the timeless black and white classics, whether it's H.G. Wells, Hammer House, or anything else from the studio system, they all have this shelf life, and they're all dying to explode into something else. Yeah. So it could well be that this is a catalyst for change. This could be an inspiring point of what to do with those classics. So you heard it here first. Yeah. but the for me, it's a brilliant reign of color and chaos, and there's an eclectic scale of stimuluses and influences, and I can see that you've grabbed onto one thing. You've had an image in your mind of where this journey is taking
Yeah.
the audience, and you've taken them there. I can see by what I've seen. I mean, you have a very small, captive atmosphere. When someone first comes in, you can see the audience, they're just like, well, we don't know what to expect. And the only comparatives that they got are, things like Wicked or obviously more in line with the model, probably Rocky Horror in some way.
Yes.
But outside the box is how I would explain this.
Well, it is interesting you should say that, because we were reviewed on Australia's ABC, which is the national radio broadcasting station, and their chief reviewer, Giles Hardy, he runs his own reviewing company called Get Flicked, but Giles actually did make the point that he was referring. We've had one bad review in all of our life, one bad review. Well, it wasn't too bad, but it wasn't glowing. And Giles said, to Moron's credit, that reviewer didn't realise probably what he was looking at, because he was when Moron premiered in Sydney, Sound of Music was running against it, and the classics, and it's one of the things I actually rail against. Is I'm nothing against the classics, but especially in Australia, the Australian market is sort of dominated by a couple of major producers, and they predominantly recycled classics, and so as Giles Hardy said, Moron came completely from left field.
Sure.
And this particular reviewer didn't realise what he was watching. And I took great delight some weeks later when we were playing to full houses of paying audiences, and that's the other thing about reviewers. Yeah, they're not paying audiences.
Sure.
Paying audiences vote with their wallets to see a show. And if people want to look at our Vox Pops, I actually did make the point on Facebook, they are the real reviewers.
Sure.
They are the people who pay to come along, and you can see it on their faces. It's not a scripted thing. These guys were just over the moon. Absolutely. And the film has the same effect. We premiered at the Dendy Opera Keys, about 200 metres from Sydney Opera House.
Yeah.
Deliberately chosen for that iconic positioning.
Yeah.
The film, that premiere of the film, sold out 2 weeks in advance.
Wow.
We were playing it safe. We booked the 150-seater.
Right.
And sold out 2 weeks in advance. And if you look at the Vox Pops from that night, and not just the people speaking to camera, but look at the people coming out of the theatre behind them at their faces.
Sure.
Just a glow. They are delighted. And that's exactly what Moron gives them.
Okay.
In 2.25 hours, they spend an evening on the island, on this crazy island, and they basically follow Edwina and Dougie, who are shipwrecked, captured by the natives, sold to Dr. Moron, and I won't say what else happens, but the whole show is compressed into the adventure of that evening.
Okay.
And I love that real time type of urgency in productions.
Yeah. It's definitely got a vibe, that's for sure. I went through watching it. I went through so many mixed emotions of putting myself in their shoes. And it was interesting, the thoughts that were going through my mind. Even though it's done with comedic value, you're like,
whoa. And listen, getting back to the classics, the Hammer films. You will remember that the first 7 minutes of the show are actually shot in sepia. And the audience are probably thinking, oh, the whole thing's going to be sepia. And then when the couple are dragged into Voodoo Valma's camp, the whole screen explodes into colour.
It's that Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, but there is that
reveal.
homage. There is that homage to those classic old,
Of course, and there's very few that do it right. I mean, as a commercial comparative, I mean, at that time, Wizard of Oz was a maverick, a maverick breakthrough. I mean, groundbreaking, and anybody that came behind that would have really been struggled not to be questioned of, I thought filmmaking was an individual voice. You're like, well, this studio system is about commercialism as well, But now, it's a struggle for anybody to think outside the box. Everything's been done. But I've got to say, out of all the things that I've seen in the last 3 years of doing the festival circuits, Moron certainly comes up close as unique.
Yeah, well, thanks, Ray.
And it's quite something. It's quite an experience. Obviously, you're looking to develop this now and take this worldwide.
Yeah, well, yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
here in Milan, this is the 13th International Film Festival that's screened it.
yeah,
Most of them have nominated it for one prize or another, and I think we've been nominated for 7 awards here at Milan.
absolutely.
And it is unique. I'm quite proud to say it is a unique project. It is actually, this film is actually the first and only film of its type to have been made in Australia to date.
Right.
And I didn't realise that at the time. You know, I mean, I'm not that sort of competitive-y type person.
Sure.
I just made it, and I thought,
Sure.
oh, I'll Google, I'll find who else has done this. No one's done it in Australia, and mind you, we were very lucky. We were, you know, we had a whole lot of circumstances just fall into our place.
Sure.
For example, we were able to lease the long disused Palace Academy Twin Cinema in the heart of Paddington. And a lot of Australians will remember it.
Yeah.
It was the home of classic movies and cult movies, and
Sure.
and for all sorts of reasons it closed down, and it had been locked up for nearly 5 years when we took the lease on it.
Yeah.
But because we controlled that building, it's a huge building. There were rooms I don't think I still haven't been in all of them.
Yeah.
But we could actually, it was our audition space, our rehearsal space, and the cast, and it's a cast of 35 including the band, massive. We were able to actually do all of our rehearsals on the stage where the show was performed, and that in itself is unusual. I don't know if you know with live shows. I mean, you basically rent a performance space and you put the masking tape out to define what the real stage is going to be. You do your blocking and everything on that rehearsal space, and then you have a couple of days to bump in the play as well, or the show, as well as all of the props and everything. We didn't have to worry about that because we controlled it. But what it also meant was we had our own film studio.
Okay.
Because we were the bosses, we owned that building for our lease.
Yeah.
We could put cameras wherever we wanted to.
Right.
And so then we thought, let's go for it.
Yeah.
And what you see is the result of 10 shows being shot, 10 individual performances being shot, each one using 14 cameras.
Wow.
So when you extrapolate that over how much footage we had to play with, it's massive.
14 cameras.
14 cameras. Some were handheld.
Yeah.
You know, and some were fixed. So we might think, well, we want to actually get that shot from hard stage right tonight.
Sure.
So we could just mount the cameras wherever we wanted to, you know.
Absolutely.
And up above them, I mean, there are shots where you, as the viewing audience, are up with the band, looking down on the backs of the players.
Sure.
And that's one thing that we aim to do with the film is, as I've said before, smash through the fourth wall.
Okay.
That imaginary wall between the stage and the audience.
Yeah.
And this film does exactly that. It smashes right through, and to the point where you're up there behind them occasionally, looking down and looking out over the packed houses of audiences and seeing what the actors are seeing.
Absolutely.
But it added to that, we also had 10 sets of perfect digital sound straight off the desk, 48 channels, every instrument, every voice, perfectly recorded.
Right.
So, and that is great. That's fantastic. But it gave our chief editor, Paul Burton, like a mammoth job. There was one point there where Paul said to me, "This is far bigger than I ever anticipated." And Paul took 10 months to oversee the editing of this film.
Wow.
10 months in the studio, carefully selecting every second of what you see.
Wow.
We also spoke earlier too about, you know, the film. Lots of people have said, "Oh, I saw the live show and the film, and I love the film. The film is like the live show on steroids." A lot of people have said that, but they qualify it by saying the live show was great, but this is amazing, because it's amazing. 'Cause it is such a different film
Oh, it's
concept.
a first-hand experience, I'm
Yeah,
sure, for the audience
yeah.
as well, because it's not just on stage; it's everywhere, isn't
It's
it?
everywhere, and that was one of the things. The audience for the live performances, we had people come back in we only did a 4-week season.
Yeah.
It's a cast of 35,
Yeah.
support crew of 15. So
Yeah.
I was paying 50 people at award rates.
Wow.
Right, for a lot more than the 4-week season,
Yeah.
for all the rehearsal time and everything. So I'm a very cautious person.
Yeah.
This was put our toe in the water. Let's test Moron.
Yeah.
You know, and in that space of 4 weeks, we went from an unknown in Sydney, which is a tough proving ground. It chews up musicals and spits them out if it doesn't like it. But we were sold out. By the end of our 3rd week, we're about 90%.
Uh-huh.
By the last show, I literally could not get a seat in my own show.
Wow.
I had to sit on a little rickety old stool next to the sound guy.
That's good.
But people came back up to 7 times to see that live show in 4 weeks. 1, because they liked it, and 2, they wanted to bring their friends back because over and over they kept saying, it's like a party atmosphere, you know, you're there to have fun.
Yeah.
But 3, because the live show, it was spread across a 2-tier stage. So while something was happening far stage left,
Yeah.
there was also something happening far stage right.
Right.
So everywhere you looked on stage, it was dynamic, you know, and people would say, I missed out on stuff, I couldn't see that, and so they'd come back. Whereas the film, like films do,
Yeah.
actually we had to make, you know, deliberate decisions about where we were going to direct our viewing audience.
Sure.
So the film is a different, it's a different experience,
Sure.
and in some ways, probably more pointy, if that's the best way to describe it.
Right.
But yeah, so anyway, but we ended up with these 2 different beasts that are Dr. Moron, and the fact that it's been picked up by 13 festivals. I mean, we've also done 6 states in Australia, and you know, we did a show, we did a screening in Queensland on the weekend, last weekend, and we had one couple drive 7 hours to see it because they'd heard about it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
pretty amazing. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
that shows that you're doing something right. That's
Well,
for sure.
it shows
Great.
that the film has some sort of appeal.
Of course, and it's clearly got commercial legs.
Yeah.
So it's where you take it from there. I mean, obviously you want to try. I'm guessing you want to try and develop this now further and make it more of an international model.
Definitely.
So, you know.
And the model will lead us back to the live show.
Sure.
And
sure.
we've really got targets.
Yeah.
Maybe London.
Yeah.
Not maybe, but
Yeah.
that's our first preference.
Yeah.
Take this to London. So many English people, I was going to call them pommies, but I don't know whether I'm allowed to, but so many of them have said words to the effect, they'll go mad over this in England.
Absolutely. Well, if Mr. Lloyd Webber or Mr. McIntosh, if you're watching this,
Yep.
this could be the next one. And equally, Mr. O'Brien, you haven't done anything for a while, so you know this could be your next one as well. Yeah. So it's. I mean, at the end of the day, look, you've got a formidable business model here, I think, and the landscape of theatre is an ever-growing one.
Yep.
It's all about experience. It's all about tourism. It's all about the business model itself. So.
And can I come in here and say one of the great advantages of Moron is we own all of the intellectual property. Mm-hmm. There are no covers of songs in this. There are no recycling hits from the 70s or the 80s. Mm-hmm. It's all new. There's 21 original songs.
Yeah.
And we don't have to negotiate with anyone for the royalties on those songs. We own them all. Mm-hmm. And it does make Moron as a live show a very clean package. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you've ever had to do it, but friends of mine who are lawyers in the entertainment area, they just say that is sometimes the trickiest part, is negotiating the rights for the songs that you want to use.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But if you were to give a commercial comparative, Richard O'Brien's work with the Rocky Horror is a brilliant model.
Yep.
Absolutely brilliant model.
Yep.
I mean, iconic.
Yep.
Obviously, he went through the same journey as progressively you're going through, which is you start off with an idea, everybody either thinks you're mad or a genius,
yep.
and it's all about the grand reveal and then the journey of that reveal. Certainly on a market comparative, that's the closest that I can find in a working model.
Yep.
of where I think you're going to take this. So, you know, I mean, obviously we're talking a couple of decades on now, we're talking a new way of thinking and everything else.
Yep.
But certainly when, you know, Mr. O'Brien set out to create the catalyst for change,
Yep.
he probably had one ideal of where he wanted to take it, and then maybe another team came behind him and said, this is where thinking outside the box will take you, and there's a meeting of minds and a spark of possibility, and all of a sudden you've got a business plan.
Well, when you look at the evolution of Rocky Horror,
Yeah.
it was originally a 45-minute college show called They Came from Denton High.
Yeah,
And then it morphed into Rocky Horror. I think it was Jim Sharman who
Sure.
was the first director,
Sure.
stroke producer. And it started its life, I can't remember the name of the theatre, but they were able to get the upstairs theatre playing to audiences of 65 people.
wow,
And that was it. That was a capacity house.
wow.
And I think it was Sharman who realised this show is so different, it's got legs. And yeah, I mean, we're really hoping, I mean, well now, I mean, I doubt that there's been a year since, say, 75, where Rocky Horror hasn't been performed in at least one country
Absolutely.
in the world.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I'm a shameless Rocky fan. I mean,
Of course.
When I go to, I've seen every production.
Yeah,
I love it.
Have you met
know?
him? Have you met
No,
Mr. O'Brien?
no.
That would be an experience.
Ah, yes.
That would be an experience. Yeah, I mean, obviously, to create the image of being immortal and
Yeah.
being part of the undead.
I know.
You know, even long after you're gone.
Yes.
You know, that legend still lives on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a slice of genius.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen him in other characters,
Yeah.
but that is a slice of genius. So, you know, long after these legends have passed,
Yeah. But getting
the challenge continues.
You know,
it's
the
great.
interesting here is getting back to it. You sort of look at why did Rocky Horror have such an appeal, and I think it had an appeal because I'm hoping that. And I do not say there's nothing in Moron that is a copy of Rocky Horror,
No.
except genre.
Yeah.
And I say that if Rocky Horror created a jump to the left genre,
Yeah.
well then we are proudly in it.
Yeah.
And it is
Yeah.
out there. It is a jump to the left
Well,
in,
of course,
in
yeah,
thinking.
yeah.
And, you know, we were in London earlier in the year with Moron at another festival. And I couldn't help thinking, you know, again, getting back, all of the musicals that were on in the West End were recycled. They were recycled music.
Yeah.
And you just think, you know, even Rocky Horror is nearly half a century old.
Exactly.
And half of my cast have never seen it.
Yeah.
They're in their 20s.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
and I really do believe that we need to give young audiences something new.
Absolutely.
We need to give them a reason
Absolutely.
to go to live theatre.
Absolutely. Well, all those casts are in the 60s and 70s now.
Yep.
So, you know, it's up to the next generation now to reinvent the wheel.
That's right.
And getting on board this bandwagon is not a bad way to start.
No.
You know, so if you're the catalyst for change for the next generation, then long may creativity continue.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed.
Fingers
Yeah.
crossed.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a project to get involved and you think you can take something like this universally the right way, this is the man to talk to. Chris Dockrell, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you very much for your time. Good luck with the festival awards.
Thank you very much.
And I'll look forward to hearing about Mr. Moron, Mr. Maroon.
Maroon, he'd love you.
In the future.
Yes,
In the
yeah.
future. Good luck.
Yeah, thanks,
Good luck.
Ray.